This week in El Paso, a three-judge panel is going to be hearing a challenge to the new redistricting maps that were passed by lawmakers in Texas earlier in the summer. The group is suing the state of Texas, saying that these new congressional maps are diluting the power of minority voters in the state of Texas. Joining us to talk about this is Mr. Jeremy Rosenthal. He's an attorney at the Texas defense firm. Jeremy, first of all, thanks for joining us. And let me start by asking you to kind of explain what this lawsuit is and what the case is that the plaintiffs are making here.
The Voting Rights Act prohibits gerrymandering based on race. And in the year 2025, gerrymandering has become a team sport. It's all the rage. If your state is not doing it, they will be doing it soon. Texas obviously redrew the maps this summer. A lot of this and that, Democrats going to Chicago, Democrats coming back. And now the challenge is that the new maps are drawn along racial lines. That's a very, very difficult distinction to make because the Supreme Court in 2019 said that partisan gerrymandering is okay, but racial gerrymandering is not. And it's very, very difficult to disentangle the two concepts.
So who's got the more difficult role in this lawsuit? Is it the plaintiffs that are bringing the lawsuit who's got to prove that this was along racial lines? Or is it going to be the state who is saying that, look, this was political, not racial, in us redrawing these maps?
I think the burden, I think a lot of the difficulty here is going to be on the plaintiffs challenging, and that's because really up until 2019, it was a lot easier, I think, to prove that type of racial animus or that it was a disparate impact, I think is what you would call it. Basically saying, look, you may have drawn these maps neutrally or you may have had neutral intent, but the way that when you look at the numbers, the racial groups on either side of a particular line, it is fairly obvious that this is discriminating based on race. Since political gerrymandering is okay, that makes that argument very difficult if a lot of the voting is along racial lines. And I think if we looked at the numbers everywhere, I think we would see that that's the case. Being that that's the current Supreme Court standpoint, I do think that the plaintiffs have an uphill challenge.
Now, if they are successful in El Paso in this lawsuit, what do you think happens there? I'm assuming it then goes to the Supreme Court if challenged by the state of Texas. Am I right or wrong there?
That's correct. An appeal would go directly to the U.S. Supreme Court, and in all likelihood, that's where it's heading either way. What would happen is the maps would default back to the 2021 districting after the 2020 census. So we would still obviously have elections in Texas. We would just use the old maps.
And just to make sure that our audience is understanding what has happened here, the big, I guess, the opposition that came from the maps being redrawn now, when we have people saying, well, Democrats have done it before, Republicans have done it before. What we've seen historically is that they're done when the census is done. And here, we're seeing this done at a time that it's not, I guess, normal or what President has said. So the big issue here is whether or not it was political or racial, and what a lot of people had issue with was the timing in all of this. Is that right?
That's accurate. Obviously, the Constitution mandates that we do a census every decade, and after the census is when the maps are redrawn. Obviously, there was no census in 2024, so you're redrawing based on what, right? That's the question, and that's what the parties are trying to use in this case. Is that's part of the evidence of some type of bias, some type of animus. Is it political? Is it racial? But yes, gerrymandering in this country has become a team sport. For better or for worse. That's sort of where we are now with the courts, with the statutes, and I think all of us would just rather have political districts that look like squares and rectangles and octagons and normal shapes that you would learn at a place like Texas Tech.
Hey, that is true. Jeremy Rosenthal, thank you for joining us as we continue to see not only this lawsuit play out in El Paso, but we've got other states that are now doing the same. California says, well, if Texas can do it, we can do it, and we're just seeing it kind of copycat everywhere else. So we'll be back in touch with you, I'm sure, as these cases progress through the courts. Jeremy, good to see you as always, sir.
Have a great day.